Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlos here, and let's talk about the other half of the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire Megas that will be in the game. Oh man, where to begin? Let's just start off with Mega Lopunny, one of the more surprisingly terrifying Mega Pokemon that we're going to see because of its attack stat. It goes from 76 attack. People were actually trying to use Lopunny as an attacker as well, and now it's at 136 attack. So it gets an absurd boost to its power, as well as getting a very high amount of speed. That plus 35 speed puts it in 135 speed, and then it gets normal fighting typing with the ability Scrappy. This Pokemon almost sounds like the perfect Pokemon. A Scrappy Pokemon that has dual hits on the normal and fighting, that isn't going to be walled out by any typing, and then also has access to elemental punches as well, with Fake Out. Whatever you want, Lopunny can do. Ice Punch, Fire Punch. Oh, it's also going to be getting High Jump Kick in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and then Fake Out. What? Are you serious with 136 attack and 135 speed? Yeah, that's going to be a ridiculous Pokemon right there. Next up, we have Mega Sableye. Sableye is also getting a very nice buff. That even right now, Sableye is getting play with that Prankster ability, and it's a relatively tanky Pokemon. That even with only 75, 65, and 50 for its defensive and hit points, it does pretty well. Well, now all of a sudden, it's getting plus 50 to both of those? Did I read that right? Oh my goodness. It's going to become a very ridiculous Pokemon to have to deal with. Then now it's at 125 defense, 115 special defense. The 50 hit points don't even matter at that point, because the first turn you're on the field, you're getting Prankster. So you're going to be able to Will-O-Wisp your opponent or get some kind of stat boost and then become really safe from there. And then it has the Magic Bounce ability. So now we have a tanky status Pokemon that can't be taunted. I don't think I need to say much more. It can't be taunted. It can't be statused itself. It's not going to have to worry about anything. It's not like you can burn Intoxic it and have it go away after a certain amount of time. It's not like you can taunt it and shut it down. No, it has Magic Bounce. It's going to be a pretty solid Pokemon. So that's one of the scary things that we're looking at. Next up, oh man, Audino and Mega Audino. First off, I just have to say, I think Mega Audino looks adorable. And then its stat gain is very uncalled for. That I could have never predicted anything close to the stats that Mega Audino gets, and that's going into this realm of 126 on both defenses. Unfortunately, it looks like Mega Audino is only going to be used in doubles though because of its healer ability. Now the healer ability works really well right now on Mega Audino because Audino just has a full kit of support that all you have to, you have so many options to heal pulse your ally, throw out a simple beam, status your opponent, do something to just all over the place. Mega Audino can cause disruption in doubles, and now it has the tankiness to survive. That with those huge defensive boosts, it's able to stay on the field, it's able to have a presence, and also it's a normal fairy typing, so it gets a really solid typing as well. It's not going to be able to get hit by ghosts or dragon, which means, yeah, you can kind of use it as this thing you have to pay attention to it, or else it's going to over-support your team. But at the same time, you know, it's something that isn't going to be too much of a threat by itself, that if there's an ally up, it's going to be able to massively boost that ally. So overall, it's going to create a really crazy dynamic because of how bulky it is. And I also feel that you might be able to pull out something in singles, just because it has such raw stats. Unfortunately, in singles, you're pretty much playing without an ability, so it's going to be a really tough call, but I think people can make it work. Mega Audino surprised me when I actually got to see its stats. Very nice. Then we have Mega Altaria. This Pokemon actually is one of the few Pokemon that have been a little underwhelming to me overall. The Dragon Fairy typing with Pixelate is amazing. The stat gain though isn't what I was hoping for. That it got 40 points in special attack and 40 points in attack. Now, I understand Pokemon is trying to make a lot of mixed sets right now, that a lot of Pokemon are gaining a crazy amount of special attack and kind of playing both ways. But with Mega Altaria, I don't think it makes too much sense, unfortunately, that, you know, it could have done with a bit more of special defense than the special attack. Its attack could have gotten a little higher because Altaria does have Dragon Dance, so I can still see it being strong. That Pixelate is going to make it strong. It has Dragon Dance, it has a good amount of stat bulk to work with, but overall I think it wasted too many points to become this super huge threat that I wanted it to be. Then we have Slowbro. Mega Slowbro with that shell armor is going to be pretty strong, in that it can Iron Defense and Calm Mind and then not get crit. That's pretty much one of the biggest things, that if you're doing a super heavy defensive tanky setup, that in the end, if you just get crit, it doesn't matter. Also, with the way that its defensive gain goes, it got 70 points in defense and 30 points in the special attack. It was probably the most straightforward defense, the most straightforward gain I've ever seen on a Pokemon. It doesn't lose any stats. Everything just goes into its two main stats, defense and special attack. Now, that also leaves a lot of room for special defense, that you can just slap on defensive nature, go full hit point investment, full special defense investment, Calm Mind, and then other things from there, and it's going to be very good. That they can't crit you to break through that shell armor, and then end up knocking you out just from a lucky crit. So overall, it's going to have some staying power, and it's going to be able to tank some really good special attacks. It's going to be able to tank some defensive attacks. It's going to be able to tank super effective attacks very well because of that defensive bulk. And now it has 30 more points in special attacks, so it's actually going to be able to hurt. It's going to be able to hurt more, which is really nice. And then, lastly, for all the normal kind of Pokemon, or the non-legendary Pokemon, we have Gallade, getting Mega Gallade. This is the Pokemon that I don't feel got as much as it needed. That the 30 points in the speed was good, but I don't think it was good enough, unfortunately. That it is a good tanky Pokemon now. That 95 defense, 115 special defense isn't something to laugh at. That unless you hit it super effective, it's going to be a 2-hit KO Pokemon, and it's going to be able to use that 165 attack, which is the highest that we've seen for quite some time. That's one of the strongest Pokemon in the game offensively. Has great coverage, has a good typing for offenses as well. But overall, that 165 attack, I feel, isn't complemented enough by the 110 speed. That a lot of other Mega Pokemon can outspeed that and find a way to hit super effective or try to get just a overpoweringly strong hit onto Gallade, and I think that that's kind of what hurts it. Also, Inner Focus, I feel it could have gone with a little better of an ability than something that prevents it from flinching when it's already a somewhat fast Pokemon. It does have a good amount of defenses, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to work. I think people are going to find a way to make it work. Like, if you get a baton pass into it, it's going to be terrifying. If you really dedicate a lot to making it work, it's going to be an unstoppable force for the most part. But at the same time, just on the surface, it doesn't have as much natural shenanigans, as I would say, as a lot of these other Megas. But don't count it out yet. I think it still has potential. It just doesn't have as much on the surface potential. It's not obviously overpowered. And then we get to look at Kyogre and Mega Kyogre, that Primordial Sea ability. That it's so crazy that as long as that Pokemon's on the field, you get you get Heavy Rain, which means that Fire type moves fizzle out. They don't do anything. That's enough right there. That nothing. I need to catch myself that, with that, Fire type moves do nothing. So it's going to be kind of like a doubles kind of ability, that all these Pokemon are getting really doubles or even singles heavy ability to a degree, and also it causes any other weather typing to fail. So I'm trying to wonder how this kind of works, because with the way that like the Desolate Land and Desolate Land and Primordial Sea abilities work, I'm wondering like if it's the first Pokemon, the fastest Pokemon to keep it forever until that Pokemon leaves the field, or if it's the slower Pokemon that can overactivate it again. We haven't seen these interactions yet, so that's going to be really interesting to pay attention to. But pretty much, it's just going to make it an absurd level of weather. And then we haven't even looked at the stats. Now, I don't feel like Kyogre's stats were the craziest from this, because it got 50 points into attack. So it really only got a nice little split between special defense and special attack after that. And yeah, it didn't get much speed, so I don't know how the stats work, but the Primordial Sea and Desolate Land abilities are just absurd. And then if we look at Groudon becomes a ground fire type and looks like that beast from the Jirachi movie. Yeah, it has like all that molten stuff going on. Crazy. It even has like the inner fire glow. Guys, Mega Groudon was created in the Jirachi movie. Just saying. Anyway, it gets a good amount of points to its attack. It also gets that 50 points in special attack. So like with Kyogre, it can kind of become a mixed attacker now, but I think Groudon actually has a better special attack pool than Kyogre has a physical pool, by far. Groudon also gains a good amount of defenses and doesn't change on special defense and speed, so they kind of mirror each other, and then the Desolate Land ability causes water type moves to fizzle. So that means Groudon suddenly gets a huge buff. That Desolate Land makes its 4 times weakness to water disappear. Just like that magician from Jirachi. Anyway, let's go and talk about, now here's the cool one. We have Mega Rayquaza. Now, Mega Rayquaza goes from having 150 in both offenses to 180 in both offenses. Gets 20 points in defense. And there it is. It gains speed. So that becomes an ultimate sweeper that has a 180 in attack or special attack, and then a 115 base speed. Also, I think it can actually play as a good mixed attacker, that it does have access to a lot of moves that are going to benefit it in that mixed sense, and it's just very strong overall. Also, the Delta Stream ability is really exciting because it causes all of the weather conditions to go away. So it creates strong winds, a unique weather condition, and it causes all those things to fail, to activate, and it pretty much makes it to where there's no weather, except I'm trying to figure out like how it plays with Desolate Land and Primordial Sea abilities. Yeah, like no one knows how these interact. I was looking at the Bulbapedia, and no, it doesn't say anything special. But on top of that, moves that are super effective to flying type Pokemon only deal normal damage. So instead of completely canceling out water or fire, it makes it to where ice, electric, or neutral now. So, and rock. So it does create, it's really interesting to see these abilities on Pokemon that you're really only going to see in like a single kind of setting. That in doubles, if there was a competitive doubles form with these abilities and with these Pokemon active, it would be amazing to watch, in my opinion. That you do have a lot of dynamics that, am I going to use, you know, this Mega Kyogre to make it to where my Scizor is now no longer weak against fire because fire doesn't exist when it's on the field. Or same with Rayquaza, that this is the ultimate doubles ability. Pokemon that have weaknesses, like flying type Pokemon that have weaknesses, you can really just cover up those weaknesses and create a really unkillable force to a degree. But I'll talk more about that in later videos once we understand more about the ability specifically. After that, we have Diancie and Mega Diancie. This Pokemon gets a ridiculous buff to speed, gains a good amount of attack and special attack. Its defenses get cut back, so it does become like a really hard sweeper. It's going to be interesting to see. It also gets Magic Bounce, so you can flip that switch onto Magic Bounce when you Mega Evolve, and it's going to be crazy that, you know, you also have mixed capabilities. You can do whatever you want. Like, I'm excited for all these Pokemon, honestly. That this is really crazy. And then lastly, I don't really know too much about Diancie, so I can't say much more. And then last, we have Hoopa. So Hoopa doesn't really have a confirmed Mega form. It has an alternate form, but it does gain some stats, and I'll make a quick note of it. That it goes to 160 attack, and then 170 special attack. That's absurd right there. And then it also has some decent amount of defensive and special defense bulk, gains a little bit amount of speed, and that's all we know. So Hoopa's going to have a major part in letting us get access to the legendaries, I believe, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And overall, I think that if we look at the whole way that this Mega thing is breaking down, it's going to be very exciting for battles. That now we have over 50, I believe, competitively viable Mega Pokemon. That's just astounding, and most of them are really strong. Like, as I was going through this list, I'm like, this Pokemon's going to be strong, this Pokemon's going to be strong, this Pokemon's just busted. And it kind of creates a dynamic of now, Megas, they're not going to be like, bring Mega Lucario, Mega Kangaskhan, and win battles. It's kind of like you have a very wide pool of Megas that interact with each other, that counter each other, that play really well with each other, and then it also makes it to where, you know, your Mega's going to be that final shot that you have, or like it's going to be your main Pokemon. Your Mega's supposed to take out 2 Pokemon or trade with your opponent's other Mega. It's not supposed to be something you have to consider losing. That it's going to be your MVP, and that if you remove your opponent's Mega, or if your Mega is lost, that's where the significant swing in a battle comes in. But now that Mega Pokemon are getting so strong, it's going to be harder. You're going to have to dedicate more resources to making sure you can remove your opponent's ace in the hole. And I think it's a very good direction for Pokemon battling, that it adds a lot of depth. That a lot of these Pokemon, they can also run without being a Mega. So it does create a lot of like, is this their Mega? Is this their one and only Mega? Who knows? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Very, very fun talk today, I think, you know, just looking at all these Megas, and I hope you all have a nice day.